Welcome to WNL Sports Weekly. I'm Jeremy Franklin. This week we'll speak with men's lacrosse coach Gene McCabe, women's lacrosse captain Cara Mulligan, and baseball center fielder Keegan Dolan. But first, a quick look back at the weekend in Washington in the athletics. Men's and women's track and field both placed third at the Odac Outdoor Championship in Salem. Xander Tallman was named Athlete of the Meet for the men, while Dana Lee earned Co-Rookie of the Year honors for the women's team. Both tennis teams opened up Odac tournament play with quarterfinal wins as the women defeated Guilford 5-0 and the men knocked out Randolph 6-0. Baseball split an Odac doubleheader at Virginia Wesleyan, falling 3-2 in 12 innings in Game 1 before winning the nightcap 9-5. Women's lacrosse finished off a 10-0 regular season run in Odac play with a 16-9 victory at Bridgewater, while the men's team beat Virginia Wesleyan 25-8. With me now is men's lacrosse coach Gene McCabe. Gene, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Jeremy. It's great to be here.
The Marlins came into Lexington 9-3 on the season, but the Generals seemed to dominate in every aspect of Saturday's game. What enabled Washington and Lee to put together that kind of performance?
Well, I think, certainly looking at the score at the end of the first quarter being 5-4, I don't know if anybody would have said the score was going to end up the way it did. But, we got on a roll, and I think the real key for us is we put a lot of our shots on the cage. So we made the goalie make some saves. We moved the ball well. And we moved without the ball really well to create some really fantastic scoring opportunities. On the defensive end, we really challenged our guys against this offense, who is one of the higher-powered offenses in the conference, to hold them less than 10 goals. And I think our guys took that challenge personally and did a great job on the defensive end. Helped that we won a lot of face-offs with Jared Mitchell there and Jack Clark throughout the game, doing a great job, and the wing guys picking up a lot of ground balls.
You had some big holes to fill after graduating the 2013 senior class. How have you replaced some of the key contributors from last year's team?
Well, I think the first thing is, we really had a lot of confidence in the younger guys that we had in the program. We see how hard they work every day. We see the work that they put in. We know how hard they worked in the offseason to get ready for this opportunity. So we just kind of knew going in we were going to be younger, but still very talented. And it would, these guys would rise to the challenge, and guys like Buck Armstrong, of course, Colin Fraser returning from starting a year ago, Connor O'Toole, Henry Waite, Bobby DiStefano. Some of the newer guys on defense really have done an outstanding job, and I think our defensive midfield core, it's just another level up. We're deep there with Andrew Reel and Will Douthit and senior Drew Kennevan, and of course, our long stick meetings with Peter Schubert and Noah Lessing have done an outstanding job. You got to like what we're getting from our goalie play as well. So I think all of those things combined, we knew we'd be younger going in, but we're really starting to mature and peak at the right time, I think.
WNL wraps up the regular season against Hampton-Sydney at home on Saturday. You could easily see the Tigers or Roanoke or Lynchburg again in the tournament next week. What are your expectations as the team gets set for the postseason?
Well, I think this last week of the regular season, I talked to the guys last night about three things. Going out and playing this game and loving the opportunity you get to play in the spring, it's spring term, and you're at home to finish out the regular season, and kind of just loving those opportunities. We talked about momentum, how these last two games of the regular season, we want to have as much momentum going into the postseason as we can. Take it one game at a time, play the best we can in each of those opportunities, but focus on that idea, having a lot of momentum going into the conference play. And then finally, just feeling good about the way we play. I think anytime you get an opportunity to play in postseason, that last week can be critical for you, in terms of how you feel about what we do and how we do it. And so really, though, that's the focus. And wherever the seeding falls, wherever it may be, it doesn't really matter to us so much. We're excited to get the opportunity to play in the postseason tournament. We'd like to have that 1 seed, but we've gone in as a 6 seed and made it to the championship game before. So we'll take advantage of the opportunities that we get. But the key is to have the right mindset and the right momentum going in.
For the second straight year, the Odac Semifinals and Championship will be played back-to-back on the first weekend in May. How would you prepare for the specific challenge of having to take on two tough teams on back-to-back days? Yeah,
I think aside from, I think you look at it, I suppose you'd like to have some of those opportunities during the season to play back-to-back like that to sort of help your team get ready. but we don't have that. So I think for us, it's about making sure we're healthy and rested, but also prepared. We have always taken the mindset that what we do is more important than what our opponents do. So that really helps us on a championship weekend because we don't necessarily get all wrapped up in, having to over prepare and develop special game strategies for both teams. And, they each have their strengths and weaknesses, whoever they may be. But focusing on us and getting better every day, that helps us prepare, sort of with that sort of getting your body ready back to back. And we'll certainly be mindful of being fresh and ready to go and having our legs, but those are some of the things that we focus on.
Gene, thanks for joining us here. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's always great to be here.
I'm joined now by Keegan Dolan, senior baseball player from Bethesda, Maryland. Keegan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, good to be here.
Washington and Lee was picked 7th in the preseason coaches poll. You lost 7 batters from last year's lineup as well as 2 of your top pitchers, and yet the Generals earned the number 4 seed for the Odac tournament. How have things come together for the team this season?
We love getting that coaches poll at the beginning of the season. Every year they pick us outside of the tournament standings, outside the top 6, and we've been in the tournament pretty much every year for the last 10, 15 years. So, we lost a lot of big contributors to the team last year, as everybody knows. Hitting-wise, some of the best hitters in the league. We led the nation in home runs per game last year, and we lost 30 of those 39 home runs, so that was big. Then we lost one of our workhorse pitchers, but what those coaches don't know when they make that poll is how good the kids waiting in the wings are and how hungry they are to get into the games, and they might have performed just as well last year had they been there. So we had both young guys and old guys that we knew were going to step up once they got in there this year. And then a big surprise was how good our freshman class was. We've had 3 people contribute significantly offensively, and then to the pitching staff, some of those guys have been really awesome for us this year. So we've really gelled as a unit because we're so diverse from freshmen to seniors starting, and I think it's a different dynamic and just as good or even better of a team as we had last year, even with all that senior talent.
You had a couple of blasts in Game 2 against Virginia Wesleyan on Sunday. That gave you the single-season home run record for Washington in the league with 10. What does that mark mean to you?
Well, we really had one major goal going in this season, and it's maybe not what you'd expect. It wasn't necessarily to win an Odac tournament, but it was to keep playing together as a unit as long as we could. And I stole that from our seniors last year. But there's going to come a time this season when if we lose this game, then I'm never going to play baseball again for the rest of my life, but that's not today. And I think that's our main goal. But on a more personal level, I definitely had some goals for the season. I accomplished some of them, and one of them was to get that home run record I had in my sights after last year. We hit so many, so figured I'd try to go for that this year, and it's good to see all the hard work that I put in the offseason during the season this year pay off.
Because of the crazy weather this spring, there have been many occasions when you've played a lot of games in a short amount of time. Most recently, you had the back-to-back Odac doubleheaders on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. How will that schedule prepare you as you get set for the Odac tournament?
The Odac tournament is just such a grind. In order to win it, you have to play 5 or 6 games in 4 days. And in the 2 experiences I've had in the tournament so far, we've only played 2 or 3 games. But in order to do well in the tournament, you have to have that deep pitching staff, and you have to know how to use them effectively. Our coaching staff has to know when to pull which strings and put what guys where. And I think playing those 6 games in 5 days that we did last week really allowed our coaches to figure out who to put in where and allow our pitchers to know when to push themselves and how far they can push themselves in order to not only consider, hey, I got to start today and be good today, but I might have to go again tomorrow or the next day in order to give our team a chance to win the tournament.
In addition to the pitching, what are the other keys for the Generals to have success down in Lynchburg?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing in the tournament is definitely pitching, but from an offensive perspective, we're not necessarily an offensive juggernaut like Shenandoah or the team we were even last year that's going to go out and win games by scoring 10, 15 runs, but what we can do is have timely hitting. And we struggled with that at the beginning of the season a little bit, and is why we kind of fell back in the Odac in the first quarter of the season. But what we've been doing lately really well is both 2-out hitting and taking advantage of opportunities with runners in scoring position, and then continue to have the great defense, barring that one Shenandoah game, which we'll forget about, but the best defense in the Odac.
Keegan, thanks for joining us here. Best of luck at the Odac tournament.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
With me now is Cara Mulligan, junior lacrosse captain from Glen Ridge, New Jersey. Cara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
At this time last year, Washington and Lee was 7-9. You were getting set to enter the Odac tournament as the number 4 seed. You ended up winning the championship, but this season, 10-0 in the Odac, 14-2 overall. How have the Generals been able to bounce back in 2014?
Yeah, I would say that this season our senior class is so strong. They came into the season knowing what they wanted. We had our goals set, And I think especially when they were freshmen, they had a senior class that was really strong and helped lead them, and they really wanted to emulate that for the freshmen, who are half of our team practically. So it was really important for them to pull the freshmen up, and especially because they're so talented. And just the team culture this year is really great, and just overall, all bonded really quickly, and we want to work hard on the lacrosse field, so we've been pretty successful so far.
As a goalie, how much confidence do you have in your defense, especially with all Odac and All-American players like Leanne Stone and Olive Waxter in front of you?
Yeah, it's really fun to play with players like Olive and Leanne. I mean, it's one thing because, Leanne will strip the ball from your stick and Olive will get that ground ball or that draw control, but it's another thing because they're kind of the rock for me, and I know the other defenders, so if anything's going wrong, you can turn to them and they're going to help you out. So it's really their level of play and just their overall leadership on the field on defense. So it's fun to play with them, for sure.
You've saved around half of the free position shots that you've faced so far this season. As a goalie, how do you prepare for an 8-meter chance when it's often an attacking player one-on-one against you?
Yeah. Goalies have different ways to approach 8 meters, but I know for me, watching film really helps. Brooke, our coach, is really great about giving us scouting reports and kind of showing me where attackers are likely to shoot, but you can't always rely on that. So most of it is in the moment and just getting ready to attack the ball and on your toes, and you don't know where it's going to go, so you kind of just have to react. But part of it is scouting and just preparing for what kind of attack team they'll be.
The Generals entered the Odac tournament on a 10-game winning streak. What do you need to do to maintain that momentum and your high level of play going into the postseason?
So we play on Saturday against Randolph-Macon, and it's been tough because we've had some easier games the past 2 weeks over spring break and such. But for us, what we really try to do is have really competitive practices, so that when we play in the games, it'll be easier, hopefully, than what has been like at practice. And then also just, when we get into these games, they might be 1 or 2 goal games back and forth the whole game, and we just need to maintain our composure. And also we have a lot of depth on our team this year, so really utilizing everyone on the team and getting all over people all over the field, because we have that strength to really use everyone. So it's kind of just the culmination of all our hard work, but we're excited, and we're getting pumped for Saturday.
Cara, thanks for joining us here. Good luck against the Yellow Jackets in the Odac semifinals.
Thanks for having me.
It's time now for a look at the upcoming weekend. Baseball travels to Lynchburg for the Odac tournament, with the Generals opening up against Bridgewater on Thursday evening. Action continues throughout the weekend down at City Stadium. Both tennis teams will take on Bridgewater in the Odac semifinals at Sweetbriar. The women's match begins at 8:30 a.m., while the men meet the Eagles at 2. The championship matches are slated for Sunday. Back in Lexington on Saturday, men's lacrosse wraps up the regular season against Hampton-Sydney, and the top-seeded women's team will play host to Randolph-Macon in an Odac semifinal matchup. And the men's and women's golf teams travel to Conover, North Carolina for the Odac Championship, which starts on Sunday. For WNL Sports Weekly, I'm Jeremy Franklin. Thanks for watching.